We're going to be hearing from our pastor, but allow me to briefly share a devotion. Today we're going to read from Nehemiah. We're going to read from Nehemiah 4 and 14. I'm not going to read the whole, I'm just going to read 14. It says, it states very clearly, after I looked things over, I stood up and said to the nobles, the officials, and the rest of the people, don't be afraid of them. Remember the Lord, who is great and awesome, and fight for your brothers, your sons and your daughters, your wives and your homes. Now, we know that Nehemiah, of course, I'm sharing from Jotham Munene's, Reverend Jotham Munene's devotional is entitled Fear Not. And we know that the book of Nehemiah is a book written because Nehemiah was ministered to by the Lord to go and build back, build Jerusalem because it was in such a bad taste. Nehemiah is well known as to many Christians as a model for a godly leader. He led the Jews in the rebuilding of the wall around Jerusalem in just, notice, 52 days. He divided the job amongst the people of Judah. He did not do the work, though, in the absence of opposition. In today's He did not do the work, though, in the absence of opposition. In other words, there was opposition. He did it regardless of the opposition. And that, what does that teach us? It teaches us that when God calls us to do something, it doesn't mean that there will be no opposition. Yeah, but we can learn a few things from the life of Nehemiah. Today, we find several enemies. This includes Sanballat, Tobias, and the Arabs, the Ammonites, and the men of Ashdod. You can find this in Nehemiah chapter 4, verse 7. Sanballat said that the job was impossible. Verse 2. Tobiah cast doubt on the ability of the workers to come up with decent walls. Verse 3. In verse 8, Nehemiah's team learned of the enemy's plan to attack them. Even the Jews themselves began to fear and were in doubt whether the project was possible. You can find this in verse 10 and 12. Nehemiah did his part. He stationed armed people to fight against the intruders in verse 13. Even the builders carried the weapons so that as they labored, just in case someone is coming, you would be able to protect yourself. You can find this in verse 14. But as a good and godly leader, Nehemiah encouraged his people. He told them not to fear. They ought to remember their Lord Jehovah, who is great and awesome. They were also to know that they were fighting for their families. Yeah, and somebody could be wondering, Shiku, how does that apply to me? Today's reading is excellent. It's an excellent example of how the enemy uses fear to cripple. The enemy uses fear to cripple you and I. I don't know if you've ever heard the saying frozen by fear. You can be so afraid unakatu you're frozen. And of course, Reverend Jotham Munene shares an example here saying, I once heard the great evangelist Reinhard Bonnke say, the fear is a dark room where negatives are developed. In today's reading, we notice the revival of the nation of Israel was at stake. And of course, the king had already given permission to the rebuilding of Jerusalem in Nehemiah 2. However, there were so many voices intending to intimidate God's people to stop the project. Had the Israelites given into the fear, the city and the wall would not have been built. Has God ever given you a project? Yes. For me, I can say yes. This could be starting a business, embarking on a course or a study, or even planting a church for pastors. But for some of us who are listening from work, maybe God sent you on assignment in that place of work. And he's telling you, do not be afraid. It's important to appreciate that there will never be a perfect time to do God's work. There will always be opposition. Not everyone will believe you. There will always be reasons to fear and reasons to back away from what God has called you to do. But we are reminded this beautiful morning, do not be afraid. Whatever project God has put in your heart, it is not just for yourself. It is also for your family. It is for the nation. It is for the church. It is for posterity. Nehemiah would say to you today, fight for your brothers and your sons and your daughters, your wives and your homes. And I will add and say, please fight so that you will leave that place a better place. That when you move to another place, you hear testimonies of people saying that is a beautiful place. You will thank God that He sent you there to change whatever thing that was ailing that place. This message seems to speak in a very special way to men, specifically because they are the head of the families. Nehemiah also reminds you that one antidote to fear is remember the Lord your God, who is great and awesome. Lastly, you must fight. You have to put on the full armor of God and engage in spiritual battle, according to Ephesians 6:11. Allow me to add, the wonderful thing about this full armor, it doesn't have anything for the back. There's no room for running away. Stand your ground. Your God is with you. So allow me to just finish with this simple prayer that he leaves here. He says, Dear God, you who was with Nehemiah in the rebuilding of the wall of Jerusalem, I praise you. I acknowledge today that you do not change, but remain the same yesterday, today, and forever. You who gave great courage to Nehemiah, give courage to me for the battle that I face. Indeed, there are Sanballats and Tobiahs in my path. Help me to fight for my family, for the church, for the nation, for my workplace, for whatever place of influence that you have placed me. I hereby put on the full armor of God, ready for battle. With your help, I will not fear. I will not succumb to threat, discouragement, intimidation. Help me to keep in mind throughout today that you are the Lord, great and awesome. I declare today I'm a victor. In Jesus' mighty name, amen and amen. We go for a very brief break. We'll be back with Pastor Ray.
Hope FM, another quality service from Christ, is the answer ministry. The afternoon switch with Mankaris.
There is no denying that God is so glorious. Oh, you're victorious.
The afternoon switch with Mankaris.
Okay, Mankaris.
Yay!
Yaje my mentor.
Niko fiti sana.
Conversations on issues affecting the young people.
Unaanza kutembeza moto. Mandazi ni moto, mandazi ya kupendeza, mandazi soft, mandazi hata mtoto wa mwezi mmoja anaweza kula.
The afternoon